Hello and welcome to Archer Enemies, the Hawkeye after show from the Comic Crush. I am, as I was before, Paul, and this is Liz. Pretty much the same as she was before. If she's any different, we'll I don't know, we'll slap that down. Just have it be exactly the same before. No one wants anything different, do they?
Well, no, why would they?
Welcome back. Hello to all the podcast listeners. Sorry, I didn't say hello to you guys on the last episode. I hope you're enjoying all the podcasts. Glad to see many more of you tuning into the podcast lately. Hopefully, you're finding it easier to get the podcast and the videos all in the same place now on the website. I've taken a lot of great pains over the last few weeks to make sure that stuff is all kind of syncing up. So you should be getting the podcast the day after the video drops. It takes around 24 hours for me to be able to, for technical reasons, for me to be able to get the podcast up. Hopefully you're enjoying these, listening to our voices rather than looking at our faces. Now,
my face is adorable.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything about your face.
Well,
I did not say a freaking word.
Didn't like the implication. Face. Just saying.
There wasn't. I said some people simply prefer listening rather than looking at our faces. Remember, there are two of us here, Liz. I'm here too, you know. I'm exposed and vulnerable, just as you are. Live on air.
I'm sure they enjoy my dulcet tones as well.
Yeah, I mean,
on
I
the
don't
podcast,
know. I just try and turn the volume down, really. Oh, look, I can mute your mic.
That'll be a fun show.
Will be for me. Lest we forget the week when nothing was working. It was all my fault.
It was.
Right, anyway, welcome back to Archer Enemies, the Hawkeye after show. Every week we are going to be taking you through each episode of Disney Plus's new MCU Hawkeye show, which you should be watching. This show will run for 5 weeks. We will also be doing next week, I think the comic show's coming back, right, Liz? I mean,
yeah, we're going to be doing, you know, back to back, you know, all the content you can handle, Comic Crush and, Crush and Comics, rather, and Hawkeye. So how are we going to do that? Is it going to be Crush and Comics comes out on the Thursday?
It is going to be Crush and Comics on Thursday, and
Hawkeye on Friday, yeah.
Yeah, so that, you know, you don't have to watch us both on the same day. You can have a little break, give you some time to acclimate to both new comics and Hawkeye. I love the fact that you kind of get this on a Wednesday. It's so weird that they've moved their shows to the Wednesday to NCBD, just as sort of New Comic Book Day is no longer becoming a real thing because of the stuff that DC are doing. And it's the one downside I find with DC at the moment is they've killed the New Comic Book Day excitement. I'm really annoyed about it.
Yeah,
although I love the comics they're putting out.
It's great, and it's great that the distribution, you know, there are pluses, you know, on some sides of that. But I know what you mean. The excitement of it all dropping on the Wednesday is a little deflated by the DC books coming out on the Tuesday.
But we'll talk about that more maybe next week. We'll see.
We'll save that for the comics show. This is the Hawkeye show. So.
This is the Hawkeye show. So episode 2 of Hawkeye. This one is kind of. I'm glad that they kind of managed to match the pace of the first episode, and in fact, they managed to cram in even more. And although this one is full of more incident and more stuff happening, I kind of, as I said just a few moments ago, I did feel like I enjoyed that first episode more.
Right.
But you haven't had the problems that you've had with some of the Marvel shows where there is this sudden crushing difference in pacing. Because I mean that sunk the Falcon and Winter Soldier for me. Is there?
Like you, we'll never agree on this ever.
I know, but it's not my fault. You're wrong.
No, I'm right. I mean, episode 3 and 4 are the best episodes of the show.
Liz, you've taken you have taken screenwriting classes where they would have taught you pacing and storytelling and structure, and you cannot look at those episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier and tell me that those things are well paced and well structured. They are not.
Great.
Balls. Utter balls. Anyway, Hawkeye, yeah. So we don't have those problems here because this is a great episode. So Kate is now kind of on the run with Clint Barton, having escaped the tracksuit mafia at the end of the last episode. Do you think that if Clint hadn't stepped in, that Kate would have got out of that? I think she could have.
I think it's possible, but I also think that this is very much Kate still in the training phase, and I think maybe she wouldn't have. I think it could have gone either way, and I think that I'm not saying it's because she's not capable, but she has stuff to learn from Clint that probably saved her behind. And I think that's kind of the point. It's like we saw, right, summed up in that little scene with the clock tower, that she's super capable, she's super confident, but she doesn't quite get it right.
Yeah, very true, very true. I don't know. I was really hoping she'd kind of pull her own arse out of the fire on that, but so glad to see her kind of hooking up with Clint finally. There's an interesting thing with Kate. I think Kate is desperate for a father figure. Quite. I think it's quite obvious. It's not really something that they're kind of being coy about. Despite having other father figures thrown at her throughout the episode, you can sort of say that about Armand, and you definitely, of course, say it about Jack. But Kate is desperate for a father figure.
You could tell she was like a real daddy's girl, like in the little scene that we got of her, between her and her dad. You could see that she's daddy's girl. She and her mom don't really see eye to eye. They're very different. And not only does Clint sort of represent a father figure to her, but also like kind of an idol. Like, she saw, what we sort of discussed in the last episode was, her dad, represented protector to her, and who else represented that in that scene but Clint, who sort of almost unwittingly saved her, and also many other people in the Battle of New York. And so she both idolized him, and now that they're sort of having to work together, he's also this sort of father protector figure to her.
Yeah, and lest we forget, he kind of later on in the episode, he sends his own kids off. So thematically, in a way, you're kind of leaving the way clear for that relationship to develop. The sort of father-daughter thing, the mentor-student, all that kind of thing is left clear, except that Clint actually gets in the way of it. The tracksuit Draculas track Kate down. Hawkeye just wants the Ronin suit out of play. Tracksuit Draculas track Kate down once again because of her own kind of. Well, I mean, it's not stupidity. Her name is on the buzzer.
She's just she's just not.
It's unavoidable, really.
Right, it is, but she's just not, she's not a seasoned vet like Clint, who would never do something like that. She's very green, she's never actually had, she's probably been training with this idea in the back of her mind that she's going to be, a hero of some sort, but it's never actually been put into practice.
No, definitely not. So, you get this fun sequence where they set fire to her place. It's good to see that the tracksuit Draculas are the tracksuit mafia, as they're calling this. In the comic, I believe they are actually referred to as the tracksuit Draculas, which I perhaps may have been considered sort of slightly racially insensitive here, despite the fact that Dracula comes from Transylvania, which is in Romania, and Russia is somewhere different.
Right.
But yeah, they are Russian mob, and they kind of they burn Kate's place down, making these guys go on the run. I really kind of feel for Kate because She's so desperate to prove herself, and it just keeps going wrong. Like I think, although they're playing it for laughs, there is a lot of kind of potential danger coming up for these guys, because clearly the Tracksuit Draculas are working for Tracksuit Mafia, are working for someone else. It's hinted at. We're not sure who, though.
No, like there's there's like Clint, immediately he doesn't even want to talk to them. He's like, oh, it's like talking to the furniture. Yeah, I want to talk to your boss, and of course that's not. But we don't know who the boss is yet.
Yeah, between that, we see him dropping Kate off at the kind of mum's security company, where technically she works, but she kind of treats it like I'm the boss. She just dumps her stuff down, and she's kind of very easy. I love that whole exchange between her, Jack, and her mum. I think that was great. Jack is learning to be a stepfather, and failing miserably. Kate has a lot of suspicion about Jack because of the auction. She thinks he's definitely very, very shady, which is entirely possible. He didn't tell Eleanor about the auction, although he did say to her, "I've got my other engagement."
Right.
So,
but and it's not clear whether Kate's mom is privy to what that engagement was.
Because she does say back in the first episode, oh, there was something about an illegal auction, an underworld auction. So I don't know. They're being very coy about it. I definitely think that she's going to be the bad guy, or at least one of the bad guys.
Something's going on there.
Okay, I'm going to call it now. I think she's connected to Contessa Valentina. What's her face?
Okay. I mean,
I think there's definite kind of.
It wouldn't surprise me if Val showed up in the show. That's very possible. Yeah. We obviously saw it. Now, if Yelena Belova does show up, the last place we saw Val was recruiting Yelena.
Now, I love what comes next. I think what comes next, on first watch, was one of the funniest things I've seen any of the shows or films do, which is send Clint into a LARPing session. And then the interesting thing about that is look, it is just like the cheap version of what he does anyway, which is put on a costume and run around and scream and fight, except that he actually saves lives. Yeah.
Right.
And of course, there's this very interesting suggestion that gets thrown at him at the beginning of that session when he's kind of being blocked from going into it, where the woman says, hey, a lot of the people here are cops and firefighters.
Right.
And I think she says it as a threat, as a way to say, you're going to get your ass kicked. But also there is a thing. It's like, okay, look, those guys are actually sort of real heroes. You guys are just playing dress up. But you wouldn't.
I think she's saying, these people are, there are people that are worthy of your respect, and you're judging them, sort of maybe a little unfairly.
Okay, that's interesting. But there is that question of what heroism is, and is idolizing heroes okay? Because I think that's something that Clint is kind of struggling with throughout the entire show, and is going to be struggling with, is that I don't think he wants that kind of idolatry. He doesn't want the fame of it all,
right?
As we were talking about in the last episode, he just wants to be left alone, and it's difficult to do that if you're a hero to so many people. In like the Larping Session was hysterical. Like
it was really funny. It was really funny.
I thought it was really well played. Now he's there because someone has stolen the costume, and he wants to get that costume back. And I think that there's like again, the costume is obviously a real sort of bugbear for him, and getting it off the streets is important, which he does do. And I actually love that exchange between him and Grills, and I really kind of enjoyed that moment. LARPing is I don't know. It's
hey, I've never done it. I'm not going to throw any stones.
Have you ever seen it live? Have you ever seen it? So I have seen it once or twice, in Hyde Park, in fact. Weirdly enough, I don't know what to make of it, really. I don't want to cast aspersions on LARPers, because I guess they could be the same sort of brickbats thrown at cosplayers back in the day,
Sure.
But
it was pretty funny watching Clint having to LARP, he's this particular series has really made him out to be quite the crusty sort of grump.
He's a curmudgeon, He's definitely a curmudgeon, and which I like, because it's a man getting older.
Right.
And that is what happens to you, or happens to most of us guys as you get older. For me, I didn't have to wait to get older. I've always been curmudgeonly. And I always find people really annoying. Not you, of course, Liz.
No, of course not. Why would you?
Or maybe. I don't know. He gets the costume back. He stashes it away. I don't think it's the last we'll see of that costume. I think my money is on someone else putting on that costume by the end. I'm going to throw a name into the hat now. I think it's going to be Yelena.
Okay, that could. Hey, that could work. That could work.
But that's I'm just throwing out wild, unsubstantiated theories.
Sure. I mean, there's another character that is expected to appear for the first time in this series, and that's Echo.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe
we actually do see Echo by the end. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
I am so glad I'm not the only one losing my way throughout this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry if this is a bit subdued, guys. This is an episode about which Liz has had to kind of. She's got a lot going on at the moment.
I watched it with like 5 screaming children in the background, like my nephews and niece.
I have just watched it again. My memory is notoriously unreliable, and I'm currently still feeling the effects of COVID. So I do apologise if I'm a bit rusty on this one and I lose my way. I'm sorry this goes out live and unedited. I do apologise, or almost live. But yeah, the whole kind of thing with Kate now kind of becoming embroiled potentially in the murder of Armand Duquesne, and then of course in the fact that her apartment's burned down, and as the police detective says to her, you don't seem that bothered.
Right.
I
mean, but and part of that though is Kate, has grown up obscenely wealthy, and so, and even though she, the purse strings seem to have been sort of cut a little bit, and that's why she's not living in some super luxurious place. It's like, she's not bothered when her apartment gets trashed. It's and
I think that also lends itself to her resourcefulness, because she immediately finds somewhere else for her and Clint to go. That they go to her aunt's place. Now the aunt is also someone from the MCU who popped up before, and is apparently very instrumental in the forming of the West Coast Avengers. So I don't know if you know anything about that.
No.
So I believe her name is Moira Brandon, and she is an actress who actually goes off and becomes very famous but also
I haven't read a lot of West Coast Avengers. Hawkeye, Hawkeye himself is, it was kind of the leader of the West Coast Avengers, at various points.
I think we're going to get a sort of an amalgamation eventually of West Coast and Young Avengers. I don't think it will be just Young Avengers. I think it will be kind of an amalgamation too. And they'll do what they did with Kate in Kelly Thompson's run, where she's off in California, and
that could work.
Yeah.
Because they've had the modern West Coast Avengers with Kate in it.
Yeah,
sure. The classic, the classic was with Clint.
And Moira was apparently instrumental in setting that up. She supplied them with their very first kind of base of operations, the mansion. Right. So it was a nice kind of callback there. Armand Duquesne, by the way, just to kind of put a lid on that, was the ambassador, I think, to SingCon, which is kind of Marvel's Vietnam. I mean, Kurt Busiek is currently using SingCon in his book, The Marvels, which is running now, which just completed its first arc. That's worth checking out, by the way. That's kind of an interesting cross-time adventure. So they hide out. There's some nice moments between them there. Again, Kate desperately reaching out and trying to engage and get Clint in her life, and of course he's kind of desperately pulling away, trying to get back to his own family. And I love the fact that he can live both lives with his wife. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's on the phone to her and she has one conversation in front of the kids and then moves away and it's a different conversation. I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously they've been doing it, through the kids' whole lives. And, it looks like his oldest son is like a proper, grown teenager.
Yeah.
So it's obviously just how, how their relationship has had to be. And, his wife, rather than, get angry about it, she just works with him.
And of course, Clint would want to desperately spend all that time with his family because he lost 5 years of time, where he's getting older, but of course they're not. They're not. I assume it's something they haven't really addressed, but people who come back in the blip aren't really aging at the same rate,
Well, they've lost 5 years, so basically, they don't come back 5 years older. They come back, in the same.
Yeah.
Because they do address that in Spider-Man Homecoming straight away.
Yeah.
That,
of course, because the kid who has the kind of glow up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought that stuff was great. And eventually Clint decides, I mean, I'm probably skipping forward here a bit. Oh, no, wait, we do see, because we have like the whole thing with the uncomfortable dinner with Kate and Jack and Thingy, where Kate challenges Jack to a fencing match to prove that he's actually kind of, well, she wants to prove that he's lying about something, right? And she does that in quite a vicious way. She makes a lunge for his face, which he parries without actually looking. And that it was a very telling thing. So I think Jack is obviously a lot more dangerous than he makes out. He's not the bumbling, oafish playboy.
That you would sort of, suspect him to be.
I think he's kind of, I think he's quite dangerous. But I do think they're in it together. I think that Jack and Eleanor are kind of sort of, definitely, yeah. It'd be interesting if they're kind of operating on separate agendas against each other. That
would be interesting. Yeah. I have my own, so
go on.
I have my own little theory that
I'd love to hear this.
Well, no. I'm just saying, I'm going to put it out there that I have a theory. If it doesn't play out by the end, then fine. I don't want to say anything that I feel would be spoilery, though. And it's not comics based. It's like, it's literally just my own intuition.
All right.
About, sort of stories and how they're told. And I'm going to have to tell you off air.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil it, but I will, I will talk about this when we come to the end. Mark my words here. I have a call that I'm making right now.
Okay. You should please write this down, because I'd hate for us to get to the end and forget.
Okay.
Because we're both being very forgetful tonight.
Right. Well, yeah, I will sort of eat my hat if this doesn't happen.
Cool.
So yeah.
Okay. Right. I'm definitely curious. Now I want to get to the end of the show so I can hear it. So Kate is now sort of super suspicious. She's also kind of looking for Clint. Clint has allowed himself to be captured by the Tracksuit Mafia. As he calls it, his kind of catch and release gambit. I think he doesn't intend to actually kind of fight those guys. Now, I get an impression that as Ronin, they don't know he's Ronin, because apparently no one knows he's Ronin.
No.
Now, I think he's fought the Tracksuit Draculas before. I think he's had a run-in with them as Ronin, and he's probably taken out someone quite high up the ladder. As he says, as he's being captured in that wonderful scene, it's just like, look, I don't want to talk to you. You guys are the shift managers. I want the boss.
Right.
And you think it's going to be now, what's the name of there's the kind of young guy who's sort of lurking in the background.
Right.
I can't remember his name.
I can't either.
Yeah. But he appears to be the boss, but there is another boss, as we find out, which is the character that was mooted right from the beginning, who we knew was going to show up. And in fact, has already been greenlit into her own show.
Right.
Echo. Now, I loved her introduction with the music. That song is a song, Paul Taylor, our pal, who's sort of chimed in on many of these shows and many of our stuff on Twitter, will know that song is a Depeche Mode song that she's listening to, which I think is called something like Silent Night. But it's a great track by Depeche Mode. And we see that Echo is listening to it by touching the speaker. She's listening to the vibration, or she's feeling the vibration. She's not. And the Tracksuit Mafia guy is doing clumsy sign language to try and say, look, we've captured both, which I loved as well. Kate just falling from the roof like an idiot.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to convince the Tracksuit Mafia that Kate is not Ronin.
Right.
And in she jumps, and it's just like, yeah, you've kind of cocked this once again. But the most exciting thing is you're introduced to Echo. Now this goes to another rumor, which is
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah. Now I put a poll up on, which is, I think is probably going to end in a few hours, up on the Comic Crush. If you want to jump on, guys, and you can have a look on the Comic Crush Twitter. Will we see the Kingpin in this show? Yes or no?
I mean, come on, because if you know anything about Echo, her origins are very heavily tied to the Kingpin. So it's it would make a lot of sense.
Now, here's the thing. Looking at the dates for this, next Wednesday, 1st of December, will be episode 3. The 17th of December, when we're on episode 5, or we would have had episode 5 by then, is the release date of Spider-Man No Way Home. So it would be very interesting if by episode 5, we've been introduced to the Kingpin in this, and Daredevil over in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah, I mean, because the multiverse is cracking wide open,
Yeah.
So I mean, and to be honest, even if you don't think in terms of multiverse, the Marvel Netflix shows were always meant to be part of the MCU. They reference Thor, they reference the Battle of New York.
Yeah.
So it's not like they really did exist outside of the regular MCU continuity. So it's just going to be the first time that we could potentially actually see those actors in the MCU proper.
I would love to see them all come back. I mean,
I think everybody would. I think everybody would.
I am
especially like, you know, the Daredevil characters. For me, I desperately want John Bernthal back as the Punisher. You know, I'd love to see Jessica Jones again. I really would, you know, love for them to kind of take what they can from those shows and integrate it in.
Yeah.
And everybody, you know, people would go nuts. People, you know, I think when Vincent D'Onofrio tweeted about the Hawkeye show, oh yeah, I love these Marvel shows. This looks great. Whatever he wrote, people went nuts because there's just the vaguest implication that he could possibly show up in it.
Yeah, I thought it was terrific, and people really took to his version of the Kingpin. I personally am hoping at some stage to see Luke Cage back, because I actually really loved where they left Luke Cage, and dying. I mean,
yeah, they left all those characters in interesting places, and whether or not they can carry on with that particular continuity, it doesn't necessarily matter at this point, as long as they can kind of bring them into the stories they're telling now.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would like to see some resolution to some of those plot lines. But having, you know, Echo come in, especially so early, like I really wasn't expecting her to come in quite so early. But it does make me wonder if, in terms of bringing characters in, if the show doesn't suddenly become very full and almost too full. So if we're promised Yelena Belova, and we're promised, you know, the Kingpin, and you know, we've got Echo, and it's a lot.
It is a lot. So I mean, you know, like we have to, like, you know, sort of adjust our expectations. Maybe we won't see all those characters, but you know, like hopefully if they do.
Again, this is a thing I have with fandom at the moment. Should fandom always get what it wants? I don't know. Can you really tell what fandom wants really anymore?
Because at the end of the day, I think people do want to be surprised. But I think they also want what they want, you know.
There has been a lot of backlash with Spider-Man No Way Home, actually. I don't know if you've seen any of this.
Yeah, but I'm not paying too much attention to it.
Yeah, but I think people are kind of actually annoyed at the amount of, you know, apparent spoilers.
Speculation and possible spoilers and all that stuff. Yeah, of course.
So
that's why I don't really look at too much of it.
Yeah, you're actually really good for that. Whereas I'm just like, whatever now. You know what I mean? Partly because I am not necessarily interested in the what. What I am interested in is the how and the why. Do you know what I mean? Like I you know, there's been plenty of really freaking good movies over the years that I've gone into knowing how they end because I've accidentally read something or you know. But I'm interested in how you get there.
Sure.
Sometimes I get annoyed with spoilers, but at this point, I just want to see the damn movie, or watch the damn show. In fact, I'd actually be more annoyed about spoilers for the show than I will be for Spider-Man No Way Home. For No Way Home. But yeah, I'm curious to see where they go with this. You know, it's a
lot of fun so far. It's been a lot of fun so far. I really think the chemistry between Clint and Kate is great, and it's kind of what carries the show. Their dynamic between each other is just really fun to watch.
I've got a feeling that at the end of every episode, they're going to be captured or
beat up or, you know, just, pretty much. That would be keeping in theme with, like, you know, those great Hawkeye comics by Fraction and David Aja. And, you know, and it just, you know, it keeps the kind of comedy going. I just, you know, it's pretty much, you know, what I was hoping for in terms of tone.
Yeah, I think they've kind of hit it perfectly. I hope the pacing keeps up. I hope we're not going to have a situation as we did with some of the other Marvel shows that was remain nameless, because I've already been through it here, and Liz will only disagree with me. She'll be wrong, of course, but I hope we're gonna have it's gonna, you know, really hold. I'm really excited about this. guys, I'm done. That's it from me.
I think, sure. Until next time.
So we'll see you next week. Next Thursday for Crushing Comics. Very exciting. I've got no idea what's coming out or what
I will have to look at the list. I know there's been so much since the last time we talked about comics.
I actually one good thing about having COVID was I got through quite a lot of single issues and quite a few trades and things. Some of which I'm writing about now on the Crush, but I'm still not anywhere near through.
Well,
I want to, and of course I missed 2 weeks of comics.
Oh, I'm behind. I'm behind because I've had all my family here, and I just haven't had time to read anything.
So I'm really hoping that next week is an easy week for us with just a few titles, and we get to kind of bang through it because it's going to be a hard week coming back. Although next week there is a major release out that I think we're going to have to talk about, which is Wonder Woman, the Amazon's Historia, which just looks like an epic book.
Well, we'll definitely add that to the list. Like that's Kelly Thompson and Phil
Jimenez. So Phil Jimenez and Kelly Sue DeConnick.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant. But
and of course, if you go to this very channel, you will see an interview with Kelly Sue DeConnick. She came on a couple of weeks back and chatted about the book, and we just released that recently. We've been pushing that. It's been a really popular interview. Thank you so many of you for tuning in and sort of retweeting and sharing it with people. That's been really nice of you. Thank you. We always appreciate that. And thanks to all the new subscribers we've got, kind of probably partly due to that. We've got quite a few people jumping on to the channel and finding us. So thanks very much. It's lovely to have you all on board. I hope you stick with us throughout. We've got another great interview coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to say who it is, though. I'm really excited. Liz is really excited. And then there's another one, I think, straight after that I hope is going to happen. But again, I can't say just yet, unfortunately. I have been sworn to secrecy, and they do ask me not to say anything. Oh, and in the meantime, there will also be another interview coming up with my buddy Joel Meadows, talking about his latest kind of tripwire shenanigans. So do tune in for that. Guys, it's been wonderful. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff because that helps us out. Do check out the Patreon and the web store. You can follow Liz at Liz C. Jordan. You can check out her website, lizjordan.com, or sorry, lizcjordan.com, I should say. All the links will be in the description below. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.